All right, we are on number 90. Over explanation.
I know why Bryce wanted me to read this one because I saw a word in there and I'm like, yep, okay, makes sense. Uh, All right, number 90, over-explanation. A fallacy of logos stemming from the real paradox that beyond a certain point, more explanation, instructions, data, discussion, evidence, or proof inevitably results in less, not more, understanding. Contemporary urban mythology holds that this fallacy is typically male, mansplaining, while barely half a century ago, the prevailing myth was that it was men who were naturally monosyllabic, grunting, or nonverbal, while women would typically overexplain. Example, the 1960 hit song by Joe Jones, You Talk Too Much. Mansplaining is, according to scholar Danielle Pecht, the infuriating tendency of many men to always have to be the smartest person in the room, regardless of the topic of discussion and how much they actually know. See also the snow job and the plain truth fallacy. Yeah, that called me out. Um, because I've been told that I over-explain sometimes, and I do know sometimes I can over-explain and it takes me a while to kind of get to my point. But some most of the time it is unintentional and I'm just like really passionate about something, so I just talk. But then it takes me a while to kind of get to the point, and then people are like, Sarah, get to the point. And I'm like, okay, okay, I'm sorry. And here's the point that I'm trying to make. And I also have used the term mansplaining before. Bryce and I have had conversations about this. Because he'll explain something and I'm like, yeah, I already know that. I didn't need you to explain it to me. Um, but then he'll be like, well, sometimes, it's not a bad thing to have like someone explain it to you. So that kind of helped change my perspective, and now I don't think it's always bad. Um, so th those are my thoughts on
It's
that.
definitely bad when if I'm explaining something to somebody that um it's almost in like it would basically be a disrespectful tone that I would be treating them stupid, like they're stupid, um and not knowing what I'm talking about when they like totally do. And uh I used to hate the term mansplaining. But I do understand that it's simply just the word that more often than not men do. Women can technically do the same thing. Um, it's just yeah, treating somebody like they're stupid, uh, and just explaining something that they already know. And this predominantly happens when you don't even ask them if they understand the subject that you're talking about. You're just automatically assuming that they don't. And yeah, that can be harmful. Alan.
Yeah, I think over-explaining to me when I look at it, it's mostly a product of a lack of communication. Anytime that I've over-explained something or I've gone too far, because I have done this all the time where the point was delivered probably an hour ago, and I'm still going. And I think for me, I'll speak from my own experience. If I ever over-explain something, I think there's a real it comes from an anxiety or a fear of like, oh, I really want to be understood in this moment. And I feel as though if I'm not understood, then I won't be loved or cared for, seen or heard or appreciated or whatever. And so there's a part of me that I remember there was a long time growing up where I felt a lot of really just how would I put this? Not deep emotions is not the right term. I felt a lot of emotions that I had wished my parents and friends would have checked in on that in my experience they didn't. And it was and so as a result of that, there were a lot of times where I would, say things to various people like, I'm thinking about ending my life, or I don't remember the last time I was happy. And I would say things like that, and it seemed as though the people that I was sharing those with, and looking back at it now, I think it's just because not everyone is equipped to hold space for or to be able to handle um, large emotional challenges, and that's not necessarily their fault. But at the time, I really was hoping somebody would hear those things, understand those things, and I found that more and more as I would describe how I was feeling, um, it wouldn't land with the people that I was sharing it with, or at least not the way I'd hoped. There were a lot of instances where I would share with my dad, like, oh, my grades were slipping at one point. I was barely passing seventh grade, barely passing eighth grade, like hardly made it out of Columbia Middle School. And and I remember him asking me and being curious, like, why are you not doing your homework? And I would say something to the effect of, well, because I'm genuinely so depressed all the time. I don't even want to get out of bed most days. And his response would be something like, at the time, and again, him and I have had multiple conversations about this. This is not firing bullets at my dad. There was a lot of misunderstanding between, there were a lot of family dynamics, and it was a lot more complex than this. So I want to be super clear with anybody watching this in this moment that my dad is a really great dad, and he did his absolute best and is doing his absolute best, and we're rebuilding a relationship in a really beautiful way. And so this is not meant to be a depiction of his character. It's a recounting of the events that happened at that time. Um, at that time, his response often was, "No, that's not what's going on. You just want to get out of doing your homework." And so when I would say it's because I'm depressed and sad and thinking about killing myself, and he would say, "No, it's because you just don't want to do your homework." And what's funny is he was probably partially true, but there was also a part that, or he was partially um, accurate in saying that, and also there was the part of me that was very, very sad. And each time that happened, I remember when he would get more angry or more upset, or he would punish me or ground me or whatever it was because I wasn't getting the homework done, and it would still leave me feeling sad and not seen and heard by my dad, which at the time I probably would have just liked to have been hugged by him and say, "Oh my God, son, I love you so much. I didn't know you felt sad." Um, Whatever it was, like that was the outcome I was hoping for consistently. While I was hoping for the outcome to be my dad understanding the amount of sadness that I was experiencing so that he could pay more attention to me and we could grow our relationship back then and heal our relationship back then, the outcome that I got instead was, no, go to your room, you're fucking it up. And so it led to this pattern, this thought that followed me all the way up until my late 20s, which was this thought of, oh, the only reason that someone isn't seeing me or understanding me or loving me is because I have not explained myself well enough. And if I just simply explain myself well enough, then they will see me, hear me, understand me, etc. And so it created a pattern of over explanation over my lifetime because it was like it was a desperate clinging to the hope that someone might actually see and understand me and hold space for me at some point. So it was a deeply rooted emotional thing of a desire to be seen and heard, much more than it was an attempt to shoot someone down or to look a certain way. So I think over explaining, I think that it's a behavior that can be rooted in so many more um, so many more reasons underneath the surface other than just like, someone trying to give tons of information. Because for me, I always ask the question, why would somebody share more information than necessary? Why would they do that? Like, what would be the perfectly logical reason why someone would want to do that? And what if we also could take out selfish preoccupation and like judgment on them? Most of us, I think we can have a tendency to look at someone's behavior that's nonsensical and just assume they're doing it for some nefarious personal gain type reason, or some ignoramus type reason. And it's like, what if it wasn't? What if it was because that person's in pain and they're constantly trying to compensate for their pain by doing this particular type of behavior? And the only reason I approach it from that angle is because that's often what was driving a lot of my behavior for the vast majority of my life. So that to me is those are my thoughts on over explanation and how it hits home for me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Alan. I learned a lot about myself from that explanation. So that is awesome. Very helpful.
Yeah, Alan, I just want to I didn't say this when I was like introducing myself, but I'll say it now. After catching up on all of the fallacy videos up till now, I always love like when you get vulnerable and like explain or like share, stories that maybe are not super positive because it shows, like you are human as well. And like, I commend you for being vulnerable, and a lot of your stories also resonate with me as well. So thanks for always being authentic in these fallacy videos.
Oh, you're welcome, Sarah. Thank you for that acknowledgement. To me, it matters. To me, I come from, whether this is an accurate assumption or not, I come from the assumption that there's a lot more pain in the world than we give credit. And yes, there's hate and there's anger and there's judgment and all these things. However, I believe that truly the root of all of those things is hurt. And so for me, there's a strong desire to own my behaviors, but also to be able to fully explain and fully get into how and why I was the way I was, such that hopefully someone can hear it and go, "Oh shit, I didn't realize that was going on." And instead of them even judging themselves, because I remember in the beginning of going through this list of logical fallacies, I remember there were repeated times where I ended up judging myself because I was like, "Oh man, like I'm doing something wrong." And so going through this list has given me the opportunity to evaluate myself, not from a place of right or wrong, but from a place of, hey, why was this fallacy being used? Was it pain? Was it uninspected or unresolved hurt? And if it was, how can that be? How can this space right here be a space of therapy? How can this space right here be a space to get into it? And because it's being recorded and shared, then is it possible that that could reach one human that is deeply suffering in this moment and is really having a hard time and has been seeking for truth for a long time? And maybe in this video right now was the first time they felt like somebody was listening and the first time they didn't feel alone. And for me, on the off chance that that could happen with one person, it's what drives me to speak into the depth that I do, because I hope that that one person, if they do exist, that they can feel as though they're not alone.
Absolutely.
Love it. Love it. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. It was awesome to get Sarah and Alan on here, and hopefully we can do this all again.
Yes,
Before we
absolutely.
go, I want to say, Sarah, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you for spending time with us, and also thank you for being close with Bryce. You clearly bring a softness to him, and also you have a softness to yourself that's just really wonderful. And so, thank you for just bringing your levity, your lightheartedness, your playfulness, because it also in this space, especially if it's me and Bryce, two guys who are trying to get to the heart of things and find truth and all of that. you in this episode, I felt more of a levity and a lightness and a playfulness that came with the exploration of these fallacies, and that came as a direct impact of you being here. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. That's awesome. Thanks.
Thank you for loving my friend.
Of course.